Hello, Matt Noltemeyer with Sosland Publishing Company. I'm speaking with Dan Basse, an economist and the founder of AgResource Company, who's just finished his presentation here in the general session of the Sosland Purchasing Seminar. Dan, I wanted to ask you, if you were to take your talk, which touched on a lot of points, and distill it down into a couple of sentences for the audience, what would you say?
Yeah, so the world has enough grain today, Matt. We're not running out. I don't think there's going to be an issue unless some major exporter or importer has a production problem. And that being said, that doesn't mean that grain prices are headed sharply lower. We've had 3 years where grain prices have been bearish and the market's been oversupplied. I think we're digging out of that time frame. And I'm saying that because as world fertilizer and energy prices have been higher, farmers will step back on their production. I do believe you'll see El Nino produce smaller crops in the southern hemisphere, Argentina, Australia next year. So with that in mind, I would tell every end user that they need to look at the pressure coming from corn and soybean harvest in the United States, let's say mid to late summer, providing the next buying opportunity in a lot of these markets.
If you were to take a portion of our audience that might be buyers focused on wheat, corn, soybeans, would the advice be similar for all three, or is there anything specific that you might tell those buyers?
Yeah, the buyers in particular, I would tell all of them that the corn and wheat advice would probably be the same, but world farmers are planting more oil seeds because of the fertilizer price hikes. Of course, it's cheaper to fertilizer soybeans and oilseed crops, so farmers are leaning to that. That being said, we have biofuel policies both in the United States, Latin America, and Indonesia that are pretty stout and pretty important. So vegetable oil prices stay high. I worry a little bit about the meal market, but if I were to divide them out, I think that the grains will outperform oilseeds as we think about the year ahead.
You mentioned quite a little bit about the Strait of Hormuz and the potential for that blockade to continue being a choke point for us going forward. What would be your personal, your outlook for that?
Yeah, listen, I hope the Strait gets opened. I just had a conference myself in Switzerland, and we talked about the Strait, and the room was more pessimistic about it reopening anytime soon. And as I look at the betting markets, Polymarket and some of the other ones, people are saying, well, maybe we'll get it open by the end of summer. 40% are saying yes, maybe by September 1st, 50%, but it's surely not a clear opening as we think about today. So that is important because as we think about Brazil in particular, 85% of their fertilizer supplies are imported, Argentina being similar. So as you think about those southern hemisphere crops, I'm not sure they're going to be as large as maybe some people are speculating on them today.
Dan, thanks for being at the purchasing seminar and giving us a little bit of time afterwards.
You're welcome, Matt. Thank you again for inviting me.